Hello, welcome to Pirkei Avos. We're on chapter 1, Mishnah 6. Yoshua ben Prachia v'nitai harbeli kiblu mehem. Yoshua ben Prachia v'nitai harbeli accepted the tradition from them. Who is from them? Is from Miyosef ben Yoezer ish Tzredu, Miyosef ben Yochanan ish Yerushalayim. They were the authors of the last Mishnah. So you see the pattern that each Mishnah is taught by a student of the one who authored the previous Mishnah. So what does he say? Yoshua ben Prachia Omer. He says, Asei lecha rav, make for yourself a rabbi, a teacher. Uknei lecha chaver, and acquire a friend. V'haveidanes kol ha'adam l'kaf zchus, and judge everyone favorably. Now we'll have to see why it says specifically acquire a friend. Now, something that's very interesting, I heard this from Rabbi Safran, Rabbi Chaim Safran, who used to be a rabbi here in Alabin, and this is, you really see it, we're going to see in the Rabeinu Yonah, that what's the connection between the beginning of the Mishnah and the end of the Mishnah? We often ask this. It says, make for yourself a rabbi, acquire a friend, and judge everyone favorably. So what does judge everyone favorably have to do with acquiring a friend and making yourself a rabbi? The answer is that if you don't judge people favorably, you'll never have a rabbi and you'll never have a friend. Because you're always judging them negatively, so you'll always be frustrated with people. And you say, oh, this rabbi's no good, he did X, Y, Z, or this friend, he's a real jerk, he did X, Y, Z. But yeah, if you judge everyone favorably, then you can keep your friends, and you can keep your rabbis. And we're going to see this is really, Rabeinu Yonah actually says something quite similar to this soon. Okay, so let's see what Rabeinu Yonah says. Yoshua ben Prachia Omer, Asei lecha rav, make for yourself a rabbi. She'afilu she'ati yodea kamozi, even if you're as intelligent as the rabbi. Let's say you have certain communities where people learned in yeshiva for many, many years, and they might know just as much in Judaism as the rabbi. Nevertheless, you should make him a rabbi. Asay also rav alecha, you should make someone else, you should make a rabbi on you. What does that mean? Because a person remembers more what his teacher teaches him, what his rebbe teaches him, from what he learns himself. And furthermore, sometimes he might understand something more than you. So even if you're both, the rabbi knows as much as you learned in yeshiva for 10 years, and he learned in yeshiva for 12 years maybe, and you know pretty much the same, but still, you should make him a rabbi over you. One is because you'll remember more when he teaches it to you, and two, maybe he knows some things that you don't. And he'll teach you. Even when you are having the same wisdom. So it's very important to have a rabbi, to have a teacher, and the teacher doesn't have to necessarily know more than you. Obviously, he shouldn't be an ignoramus or something. But, okay, now the next. Uknei lecha chaver, and acquire for yourself a friend. L'shlosha devarim tzarich adam al chaver tov. There are three reasons why a person needs a good friend. Ha'echad, the first reason, l'divrei Torah, for words of Torah, k'moshe omer zichron levracha, like the sages say, harbe Torah lamadati im rabbaisai, I've learned a lot of Torah with my teachers, v'im chaver yosem rabbaisai, and from my friends I learned even more Torah, v'im talmida yosem rekulim, and from my students I learned the most. So, a person needs to have a friend so we can discuss Torah ideas, things like that. You can learn yourself, but when you speak to a friend, and perhaps you're learning whether it's a difficult sugya, a difficult topic in the Talmud, or whether you're learning something new, speaking it with a friend can help solidify the ideas, or maybe you made a mistake, he'll correct it for you. And just by speaking something out, by verbalizing it, is a way to clarify the idea, and you could learn from your friend. Rav Chaim Volozhner says there are two ways to clarify an idea, to make sure if you understand it, and those are the two ways of shechita. There's two ways you can check a knife before you shecht it. You can put it on your tongue, or you can use your fingernail to see if it's smooth, if it doesn't have any nicks. So the same thing when it comes to clarifying an idea. You can either write it down on a piece of paper, and if you could write it, you understand it, or you can verbalize it. You could see if you understand it that way. That's a side point. Just got a little off track, but one reason to have a friend is to speak with him words of Torah. Vasheni, the second reason, lemitzvos, for mitzvos. She'af b'she'en chaveru chasim mimenu. Even if your friend is not more pious than you should still have him as a friend. Upa'amim shegam hu osa asher lo chadas. Maybe he'll even do things that are incorrect. Kishehu nana b'davar osa avera. When he wants a certain enjoyment and he does an avera, so let's say you have a friend, even if he's not more pious than you, so what? He sins. Your friend might sin, but he's only going to sin for his own benefit. Usually people don't sin if it's going to negatively impact somebody else or just somebody else, because people, they'll sin. Why do they sin? Because there's a certain enjoyment that they want to have. But they don't want to cause somebody else to sin because there's no enjoyment in causing someone else to sin, right? Unless you're like a really like evil person that you just want to get people to do sins. But in general, people don't want to cause others to do sins because ein adam chotev v'lo lo. Im kain nimsa ki yochiach haveru min averos. So what's going to happen? So it'll come out that let's say your friend sins, you'll end up causing him not to sin, and you'll give him words of rebuke. V'chaveru yishalem lo kapalo, and your friend will repay you. V'nimsa shneim chozim b'tshuva, and both of them will return, will do repentance. Kol echad al pi chaveru, each one on his friend. So he's saying that you should get a friend, even if he's not more righteous than you, because if your friend sins, then you'll make him correct his ways, and then if you make a mistake, he'll correct your ways. So that's the second reason to have a good friend, is to keep oneself honest to do mitzvos properly. Hashlishi, the third reason to have a friend. Le'inyan ha'etza, to get advice. Shikechena lios lo me'ir la'azor b'chol Yonah. You should have a friend so that he can help you in different things, give you advice in different areas. V'lakachos meno eta tova. V'lios ben sodo achar hayosu imo b'bayis. He's around you so he can give you good advice, and you can have someone to share your secrets with. And he won't, he's your good friend, so he's not going to reveal secrets to other people. He also won't tell secrets to people that are your friends, that people that are close to. A good friend will keep the secrets. This King Solomon said in his wisdom, that people's plans are foiled when they don't have someone to give them advice. With a lot of advice, the things will work out, will stand. Okay, now, why does it say acquire a friend? Right? It said aseh lecha rav, make for yourself a rabbi, but it said acquire a friend, beloshen kniya, acquisition. Because if you don't find a friend for free, you should purchase one. You should sell things to get a good friend. That's how important it is to a good friend, that you should have a good friend, that you should even sell things if you need to buy one. I don't know how you would do that nowadays, but maybe it means like a therapist or something. You could pay money to go to a therapist to get good advice, maybe. Or to get one with nice words and soft speech. Also, he says, and you should not be makbid. You should not get upset and be strict on his words, and you should have patience with what he says. Even when your friend tells you something that you don't like, you shouldn't answer him. Because without this, he's not going to stay with you. Why? Because people have different opinions. People have different makeups. People are different. Sometimes you're going to do things and he's going to say this is not correct. If you don't have patience and don't overlook what your friend does, the rope will break. So he's saying here, to keep a friendship going, you have to overlook things because people are different. There's always going to be difference of opinions. People have different ideas of what's right. And if you don't get along, if you don't learn to overlook things, then you will not keep a friendship. Now, obviously, there's a limit. If your friend's doing something horrible, like murdering people, something like that, then I imagine you don't have to agree with him. Okay, this is what King Solomon says, Al Vashalom, B'chachmaso. One who seeks love covers sin, but staying on something unravels a leader. What's that mean? Someone who covers it up doesn't mean covering it up like hiding it from the cops or something. It means ignoring when somebody sins. He is the person who seeks love. Because with this, the love will remain. When you are soivel, when you're able to have a friendship even though the person does something wrong to you. So that's when you'll have the love increase and you'll keep the friendship when a person does something wrong and you learn to ignore it. But someone who dwells on it, his friend said something really mean to him, if you dwell on it, and you say to him, and you go telling people, you know what he said about me, then the leader will become unraveled. Meaning the love will go apart and become detached. So if your friend says something that you don't like, If you ignore it, you'll keep your friendship, the love will increase. But if you just dwell on it and tell people, oh, do you know what he said about me? Then the friendship will not endure. That's what he's quoting from here, the verse. Obviously, if someone says something that really hurts you, you can say it to him in a nice way. We learned in last week's Parsha that there's a mitzvah not to hate your fellow Jew in your heart. So what do? If someone does something horrible to you, you go and you speak to him about it, obviously in a nice way, in a kind way. But definitely not to be upset with him and to go telling other people what he did, because then the friendship will not last. So what do we learn? We learned that a person should have a rebbe, should have a rabbi, even if the rabbi doesn't know more than him, for two reasons. One is to teach him, because you remember more when the rabbi teaches it to you, and number two, because maybe he knows something you don't. And then we said that a person should acquire a friend. And why does it say the wording of acquire? Is because having a good friend is so important that if you don't have one for free, you should even purchase one. And we said there's three reasons to have a good friend. One is for Torah, to have someone to talk to in Torah. Number two is for mitzvos, to keep each other on the correct path. And number three is to speak to someone to have good advice. And we concluded by saying that in order to keep a good friend, one has to overlook things, because people have differences of opinion, and the only way to keep a friend is to overlook those differences. Okay, wish everyone a beautiful day.